Hello and welcome to day three of our program Breaking Through the Scrum Job Market in 2024. And today we are going to be talking about DevOps, and we are also going to be talking about CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous deployment. And these are two powerful concepts that will help you really advance your knowledge in Scrum. And sometimes they might kind of seem technical, but trust me, they are not technical at all. It's just about you understanding what it means when we are talking about these two concepts, continuous integration, and also what it means when we are talking about the concept of DevOps. So let's go ahead and see what we can learn for today. But our big goal for today is more or less not just to talk about a whole couple of stuff, but also to be able to see what questions you have and see how we can be able to help you navigate through this question. So let me know exactly where you're connecting from so that I can give you a shout out and we are good to go for today. And then it's a very important concept for today. If you're watching us, make sure that you click, you like, you share, invite somebody to join so that the next 30 minutes we can have interaction and see what we can do together today. Okay, without wasting much time, let's go into the learning for today. Hello, Ola. Hello, Shola. Hello, Eno. Hello, everybody joining. Thank you. From Germany. Hello, I see London. I see West Virginia. People joining in as well. Shout out to everyone that's joining us in. Okay, so I'm going to talk about two concepts today and how you interact with as a Scrum Master. The first concept we want to learn today is DevOps. 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 Now, DevOps is a combination of two words. Let's break it down in a way that you can understand. DevOps is a combination of two words. One is development, the second is operation. So, whenever you hear the word DevOps, what should come to your mind simply means how can we enable a collaboration between those who are building the software and those who are managing or marketing the software, right? So there are people who are building the technical part of it, and then there are people on the other side who are actually implementing or marketing or at the operation side. I'll give you a common example. Now, let's say that we are working with for Amazon, for instance. Now, with Amazon, there are people that work maybe at the warehouse, at the office, and they use all kinds of CRM or all kinds of software that help them to be able to do their work more better. Now, if you look at a person, maybe a manager that is sitting in front of their computer and actually maybe passing information on what software should be used on which computer and all of that, they have no idea on how this software is being built, right? Because those who build it are in the development side. Now, Scrum comes in to say that, look, we need to collaborate between those who are building softwares and those who are actually enforcing the usage of this software so that we can have collaboration. So in that case, Scrum now enable the concept of DevOps. So sometimes you might be asked the question, what has been your role in implementing DevOps as a Scrum Master, right? And sometimes you might like, okay, you definitely don't understand. Now, but what we are talking about here is how do you enforce the collaboration between operation and development? Now, when we're talking about development, we are talking about the concept of building a software, coding, writing all the code, testing it, and actually releasing it or deploying and releasing it to the end users. Now, when we're talking about operation, we're like, okay, when exactly it's being ready to go out to the end user, now the developer do not longer have communication with the end user, right? Someone need to take that information out there and explain to the end user what happened. Right. Think about yourself as someone, maybe your marketing insurance, for instance. Right. When you are explaining to your customer about how the different packages function and how they could be able to use the different application to actually submit their claim and all of that, you have no idea on how these all of these processes were built. Right. You're working only on the operation side to explain to people how to use it. But the people who actually build those softwares most often do not have the opportunity to be in the front line of explanation. So Scrum now comes in and said, okay, we are going to build around events. We are going to build around ceremonies where we can have the end users, we can have stakeholders, we can have those who work in a level of operation to intermediately come in so that we can show them what we are doing and we get their feedback. Now we now have the Scrum event, from the planning to the daily stand up to the backlog refinement to the review meeting that brings in stakeholders and people from the operation to be able to see what the development team is building and to be able to have feedback in that process. So simply that's the concept of DevOps. Now, if you want to go a bit into the technical aspect of DevOps, now DevOps it's also about collaboration of different tools that interact within the development and the operation for them to to effectively do what? For them to effectively pass on information from where we're building to operation. But we are not going to go to the technical part of the tool. Now, there's also another concept which I want us to look at today, and that concept is what we call continuous integration. It's still a concept of DevOps, but it comes with what? Continuous exploration, continuous integration, and continuous deployment. Now, this concept is mostly integrated within Scale Agile framework circle. When we talk about Scale Agile framework in a large environment, now in Scrum, which is definitely not a scale environment, it's easy to have a small loop of collaboration between developers and between operation. But then within the space of Scale Agile, it's a very complex environment. So in this case, we divide it to we have continuous exploration, which is an input or which is a part where we look at how we continuously collect information before passing it to the development process. Why? Because we are working with a large solution, we are working with multiple teams, and we might also be working with multiple trains. So there is a need to have a whole continual exploration section, and continual exploration section happen in Scale Agile. Looking at the case of Save, when you work with what you work with management, right? At the management level, at the program level, how do we assess the work that we are going to do and validate that this is important, is going to contribute to the enterprise solution before we move it on to the development process, which is the PI. Now, when it's being built, how do we make sure that we continuously integrate the different parts, given that the teams that are working in the whole process are different teams? And then how do we continuously deploy what we are building in a space that we can easily get it to our customer? Right. So those are the two concepts which we had to explain today. Number one was DevOps. Number two was continuous integration. Is continuous exploration, continuous integration, and continuous deployment. A common question you will have most of the time if you're interviewing for if you're interviewing where they're more concerned with DevOps, or if they're more concerned with continuous integration, continuous exploration, continuous integration, and continuous deployment, or if they're more concerned with CI/CD. In summary, you will often get a question: why do we decouple deployment from release? Right. Why do we decouple deployment from release? Now, let's explain these two concepts. When we say something is deployed versus something is released, something is deployed simply means that I'm moving it from one environment to another. Something is released simply means I'm taking it out to the client, I'm moving it to the client environment, I'm taking it away. Consider release as a statement release. When we say we deploy it, is that we're taking it from one environment to the other. So when we build code, what happens? We deploy them either to production environment, or we can also deploy them so that we can in an environment that we can actually test out the project to see if they're working or not, right? So deployment is still happening internally within the team that is building it, or within our dev environment or our production environment. We can deploy from one dev environment to another. We can deploy from dev to production. And in production, the production environment mimic the environment of the end user, right? So that's where we do the user acceptance testing and everything. And then the last phase is when we release to the customer. Now, the reason why we decouple deployment from release is that we may actually build something now in the January, which we're in the middle of winter, but then what we are building is going to be used in summer. So we don't have to wait until summer before we start building it. So we can build that and store that in the production environment until when it's time for us to release it to the market or to go live and send it out to the end client. Right. So those were two main concepts that we had to explain today. I'm gonna go ahead. If you have questions, the question does not have to be in the line of CICD or in the line of DevOps. If you have questions, please go ahead and put them on the chat box, and then I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes in answering any question that you might have concerning Scrum. Now, before I answer that question, I think I was in one of the session earlier this afternoon, and I was talking to um, my team, those who are preparing for interviews, are preparing to get into the Scrum job market. And the major concern, which I think everyone who is in the market now might be going through, is that, oh, it seems like the market is very slow and it seems like it's taking a very long time for people to get jobs. That is very true, but you can make yourself an exception. How can you make yourself an exception? I've seen cases where someone get on an interview, and after interviewing them they stop all interview processes and like, we found the person we're looking for. So an average person understand the basics of Scrum, understand how to answer all the basic Scrum question. The person who is extraordinary, it's like somebody who's writing a movie and want to act that movie and sell to Netflix, right? Now let's take two scenarios. You're acting a movie in order maybe to produce it locally, and you're actually acting a movie so that that movie can get on Netflix. This is two level of effort. This is the same thing, and it's the same effort on what we are seeing in the job market today, right? The people, we are not really doing what it takes. We are not pushing beyond our own comfort zone, and we're expecting to be the best. We're expecting, we're complaining, oh, I've done everything possible. No, we haven't done everything possible. There's still a lot we can do. Now, are people getting jobs day in, day out? Yes. Are people getting interviewed day in, day out? Yes. But you need to do more than what is within your comfort zone to get that interview. Right, which is the reason why I always advise, not because I want you to get in my Scrum community or where we actually do coaching. If you're in, that is where you're good. It's going to help you to close the gap faster. But I always encourage everyone, this is a journey where you need to be super, super, super good to stand out with the way the Scrum market is growing. And definitely, Scrum is not going anywhere. For people who think Scrum is going anywhere, no, it's not going anywhere. And a lot of people have also been asking, all right, how can we bridge the gap? How can we bridge the gap? I wrote a book which is available on Amazon, Three Phases to Get and Keep a Scrum Master Job in 90 Days, which is the period where we actually help people go through the entire process, from certification to learning the practicals to learning the tools to resume and start interviewing. But for people who are following on this live session, you can actually get a copy for free, which I'm sharing the link for people. You can actually download a copy for free. This will help you know exactly what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. Trust me, it will help you big time. So, for the period of this webinar, I'm actually giving it for free. But if you want a hard copy, you can find that book on Amazon as well. All right, so let us take our questions, and we have a question from Eno. What are some options for bringing a new high priority work in the middle of the spring? So this is a great question. If we have new high priority work in the middle of the spring, remember the value of agile actually say what? We accept changes even in the late in the process. So it simply means that high priority work coming in at the middle of the spring is not an anti-pattern, right? It's something which we expect. Now, if it's something which you expect, what are you going to do? You simply need to reevaluate what you have at hand versus the value of what is coming in, right? Now, you already said it's high priority, which means that if we can compare it to what we are already doing and it's more urgent compared to what we are already doing, you need to pause what you are doing and go ahead with the high priority work. But there are two scenarios on how to handle this. The first scenario is that if you know that you constantly have high priority work that might come in the middle of the spring, when you're doing your spring planning, you need to allow a buffer zone, or you need to allow time to accommodate any work that may come in the middle of the spring. But then, if this come as a surprise when you already have full capacity, what you do is that you reevaluate or you reprioritize your spring backlog, and then what is of high priority, you put it at the top, right? You reprioritize. If it comes very early in the spring where you still have work to the to do column, where you have not pulled it into progress, you can do a trade-off. But if it comes in the middle where everything have moved from the to-do column into progress and your team members are already working on, at that point it's not advisable to do a trade-off. Because if you do a trade-off, maybe you're pulling something from the in progress column back to the backlog, you loses the effort that you've put in. So you keep it right there within the spring, you prioritize that, so that at the end of the spring, you're going to have your spring report, and your spring report will actually show that these are this work that came in the middle of the spring, and that is why you were not able to finish as planned. Now, this is very important to keep that reality. The most important thing for Scrum is not that you finish everything at the end of the spring, is that you're able to deliver value, is that you're able to learn also what actually causes these changes and how can we better accommodate these changes the next time. So I hope that was helpful. Let's see if you have any other question, put that in. We have about 10 minutes to go through, and then we are going to be done for today. The next question, a couple of bonus questions I wrote down here, which I want to answer as well, is Um, it's a simple question, but this question often throws a lot of people off. How is Scrum related to Agile? Or simply, what's the difference between Scrum and Agile? Right. Scrum, it's a framework. Agile, it's a mindset. Scrum, it's a framework that helps us implement Agile. And as simple as that. Not to say many words. So Scrum is a framework under Agile. Scrum is a framework. Agile is a mindset or a way of doing things. So Scrum is one of the way that help us to implement Agile. And what is Agile? Agile is a way of delivering product or project to customer where we focus on the customer centric. We focus on incremental delivering value incrementally through shorter cycle of feedback. Right. So you realize you can answer most of these questions without really going through technical, without going up and down and all of that. The next question, um, which is on my list, it's also a very simple question. It says, what are the Scrum events and what is your role as a Scrum Master in the Scrum event? All right. Most often, when many people get this question in an interview, they turn it to a whole storytelling concept. Oh, we have the spring planning, and this is what we do in the spring planning. We have all of this. The question is very clear. One of the way to effectively navigate interviews is to stick specific to the question. Look at the keyword. What are the Scrum events and what is your role? So the first is that what are the Scrum events? We have the spring planning, we have the daily stand up, we have the backlog refinement, we have the retrospective, and we have the spring review and the spring retrospective. I know a lot of people are going to like, oh, backlog refinement is not an official event. There is no Scrum environment you will go there and not see spring planning. So if you're actually been in the job market, you understand that and not see backlog refinement. If you've actually been in the job market, you understand that backlog refinement is not an option. Although the Scrum guys say, oh, it's optional. No, it's not an option in practice. If you do Scrum, you cannot escape backlog refinement. Right. So that is one of the way you can answer it in a very clear-cut way that shows that you understand exactly what to do. Now, the second part of that question says that what is your role? What is your role as a Scrum Master in event? My role as a Scrum Master, number one, is to facilitate to make sure that the events are happening at the time which they are planned, facilitate to ensure that the events are meeting their time bounds, facilitate to make sure that the events are productive, and facilitate to make sure that if any follow-up communication need to happen, it happens. Right. So yeah, you as Scrum Master, you own the event calendar and you facilitate the implementation of event calendar. Now, that is your role as a Scrum Master in event. Then, if we shift to what is your role as a Scrum Master, all right. Apart from saying your role as Scrum Master is to facilitate and remove impediment, you need to shift now to say, my role as a Scrum Master is to help a product development team or is to help a team delivering or to help a team deliver business value using the Scrum framework or to help a team deliver business value by applying the right principle. So the central point here as your role as a Scrum Master is not on facilitating event, it's in helping the team deliver business value incrementally. Remember the center of Agile, Scrum implement Agile. And Agile is not about facilitating event. Agile is about delivering business value to the customer. So if you are using Scrum, which is an agile approach, Scrum is a framework that helps us deliver business value to the customer incrementally. So your role as a Scrum Master is to help deliver business value or to facilitate the delivery of business value to the customer incrementally. So you need to shift away from saying that my role as a Scrum Master is to facilitate event, I organize spring planning, I remove impediment. That is for babies. When you do that, they'll understand that you're just coming in from the Scrum Guide and you don't know anything beyond the Scrum Guide, right? So that's very important. Is there another word apart from help? Yes, you can use collaborate. My role as a Scrum Master is to collaborate with my team. You can use collaborate. You don't want to. I don't encourage you using the word coach all the time. This is a word that many people don't like because in most of the cases, we expect that the product owner has his own training, the developer have their own training. So in most of the cases, although you are a coach, but that's not your major focus. Your major focus is to collaborate. You look at them as partners. You collaborate in terms of also you can replace help with um, support. Yes, thank you, Alan. You can replace her with support. Support. So those are alternative word that you can replace her with I work with or I partner with. You can also replace her with I partner with. So all of those are accepted terms. All right. Any other questions? Do we have any last questions you want us to handle for today before we actually take our leave? And tomorrow I'm going to be back again tomorrow. And tomorrow, I'll be talking more on how to build a performing teams. I will talk more on matrices, how you able to collect feedback from matrices, and how you use those feedback in order to help your team grow. All right. So if we don't have any further question for today, then I'm going to say tomorrow the time for tomorrow is going to be 12:30 Central Time, 1:30 Eastern Time, and if you're in the West Coast, that's going to be 10:30 a.m. So tomorrow, I see everybody on the same line. Now, for those who need help and you are struggling and you want help from me and my team, I am going to share a link for you to book a free 30-minute consultation on what we can actually sit down with you and see where you need help and see how we can help you. Right. If you need help, I'll share a link for a free consultation call. All what you need to do is click that link, go there, and we'll collect a bit of information about where you need help so that uh, the person we are sending on the call to help you, it might be me, it might not be me. So if you're coming to need help, come with an open mind. This is one thing for anyone looking for help out there. When you want to look for help, the first thing is that you want to validate where to look for help. The second thing is that the person you want to talk to is not about, many people ask about, is it easy to get a job? What is the job market like? This is a wrong question to ask. How many people have had jobs in your community and all of that? These questions do not help you to find a good community. This question help you to validate your emotions, and then you use your emotions to get into spaces where it ends you on places that are bad. And that's why sometimes people like, oh, you know what, I've been here and they promised this. They promised because you did not do your homework. So, whenever you want to join a community, the first thing is, how is your community going to support me in learning the tools? How's your community ensure that I have the right evaluation? How's your community going to support me to make sure that I have support while I'm on the job? How's your community going to support me to know that I can, or to help me become more practical, not being theoretical? What structure do you have in place? Now, ask question. Ask question that the person who is answering, if they don't have the answers, they can give you those answers. But most often we're like, oh, what's the cost and how many people can have job? Can you guarantee me that? And the people, they're going to guarantee you. And when you get in, you realize that it's not all about guarantee. It's about you doing proper evaluation. Write a list of questions that you realize that these are the gap I'm going through. Then you want to find somebody that can solve the problem. Right. If you don't really know what is your problem, that's when you book an open consultation. Like, okay, I've tried, but I don't know what is the problem. I need your help. So in that case, we are going to be the one to ask two questions in order to figure out what you're going through. Uh, Alan says, okay, there are two questions. Let me just answer these two questions before I leave. One was a brief tell me about your day as a Scrum Master. Okay, perfect. Now, when you always have this question, tell me your day as a Scrum Master. Now, some people take it from this angle and say, oh, it's going to depend a day. If I'm having a spring planning, this is how my day look like. If I'm having this. But my advice for you on how to tackle this question is that my day as a Scrum Master, is partitioned into different zones to help me become more productive. Now, within the early hours of my day as a Scrum Master, I make sure that I catch up with all my emails. I make sure that I do any follow-up communication that need to happen before my events. If I need to send out reminder on our team chat on events that are coming up, I send those reminders just to make sure that I'm keeping my team off the loop. The events are already on the calendar, but sometimes just for motivation, I make sure I put in a word, I put in a motivation, and then I go on to facilitate my events and make sure that I schedule time to meet with managers, have a schedule time to meet with my team to have checkpoints on them. And then on the last part of my day, I want to be able to evaluate how my day went, what went well, what did not go well, and what I can do better tomorrow. And I also want to go through my agendas and plan for tomorrow and the rest of the week so that if there's anything that I'm missing, I can be able to follow up right on time and not wait until the last minute. I did not talk about me facilitating event and all of that. But if you actually listen to me, you already understand that I capture everything that you want to hear about how my day went as a Scrum Master. And then this last question from Alan: what aspect do you consider when helping your team come up with quarterly or yearly goal? Now, if you're focusing on quarterly goal, you want to focus on release planning. What are we hoping to release, because most often release planning most often are done in quarters, right? Especially if you work in a scale agile environment. But you can also have a release planning happen as frequent as possible. But if you're looking towards a short-term period, quarterly is short-term period, you're looking more at the release cycle, right? What are the release cycle? When you look at the release cycle now, it helps you to know what need to go out within the next week, within the next 2 weeks, and within that. So you set goals to accomplish the to accomplish your quarterly plan by closely looking at the release cycle. Now, if it's a yearly cycle, you want to focus on the product roadmap. The product roadmap gives you a more bigger sense of what to complete. So it's a combination of the product roadmap and the release cycle that will give you an idea of what are the goals to help your team set within the whole year. Okay, I think we passed our time. It's always a great time spending with you here. And tomorrow, if you have more questions, you can bring them up tomorrow. We're gonna deal with them. I'll see you at the end of the day. I'll see you tomorrow by